This is Ben, and we're here with another episode of the Doomcast, or whatever this is going to be called.
It's a fancy name.
Apparently that's been taken. That's what Brock was saying. That's what Elliot Grayson was saying. I've already blown it.
Yeah.
But I've got Eddie Jones with me. Not only was he the first ever TCW champion, and
Process
the current
of elimination.
current TCW champion, and co-owner of Tasmanian Championship Wrestling, and he's here to talk to us today. So welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me. This will be an interesting time. I'm keen to see where this conversation will go.
Well, of all the Australian wrestling podcasts that do interviews, you haven't done one yet. So I thought...
I have. I've done 2 in the past.
Really? Who'd you do?
I don't remember, but I know I've done them. I've done... I'm terrible with names. I did Michael's podcast from Perth.
Yeah?
Yeah, I was on that once, years ago.
Oh, okay. With Greg. Greg would have interviewed you?
Yeah, possibly.
Yeah. Okay, all right. Well... I think
that's
made myself
that's probably the only one I've done, actually.
Yeah, okay.
I feel there's 2, but maybe just that.
Yeah. So, the most basic interview question to do with wrestling. First of all, it'll get much better after this. But how did you get into professional wrestling? Like watching, becoming a fan.
I got into wrestling like most kids in the 90s, of going to Video City or Video Easy and seeing a wall.
Yep.
And you're like, oh yeah, this is different. And just started to burn through all of those 6 years out of date wrestling cards from the 80s.
Was that the Video Easy or Video City at Kings Meadows?
Nah, Video City in Newstead. It's now a Zap because everything's a gym now.
Yeah.
I think
every video store turned into a 24-hour gym.
If you're going on specifics, the first 2 shows, I can't remember what the first one I watched was. It was either Uncensored 95 or WrestleMania 9. Which young me thought were the single greatest things I've ever seen in my life. They have not aged fantastically.
Uncensored, is it the first NWO?
No, Uncensored 95 has the best main event you'll ever see. It is Hulk Hogan versus Vader in a strap match that Hogan wins by dragging Ric Flair in drag around the ring.
That sounds like a WCW pay-per-view of the era.
That show also had Sting blowing out his knee against Earthquake. They had a boxer versus wrestler match. It was a weird thing.
Well, Vader, what was his run like in WCW?
Before Hogan got there, he was like unstoppable monster. Yeah. Yeah. Then the first time he got in the ring with Hogan, he no-sold his powerbomb.
So moving on from that one, did you like... You're into figures. You've got is that like you had the wrestling figures as a child?
Yeah,
now you want to finish the collection?
I had a lot of the old WCW Smash and Slam figures as a kid, and a couple of the old WWF Jax line, but not as many of them. They weren't as easy to get in Tassie. And yeah, they spent a lot of time in storage at my mum's place when we first moved out, and then just slowly got back into it as I got my own place and rooms and places to set them up.
Do you have any like prized possessions? Or you're trying to finish off a certain collection or anything like that?
No, it'd be nice to finish off a collection, but the market has gone insane at the moment, and that stuff is just worth gold. So I'm not going to complete many sets, but...
Is that just since COVID when everybody got into collecting something?
Yeah, it's like 3 or 4 years ago you could get wrestling figures for like $5.
Yeah.
Even the old 90s
the
LJN,
thick rubber
the
ones?
thick rubber ones, and the
say.
little those ones you could pick them up for cheap as hell. Now you're going like the rare ones are going for like $500, $600, $700.
I think my first exposure to wrestling figures were those big, thick ones. Was like my best friend in primary school. He was the youngest of like 7, so his older siblings had all those, and the big wrestling ring with the blue ropes.
Yeah. I've still got my childhood toy ring. It's a nitro ring with the scaffolding. The middle's rubber, and if you press on it, there's a 3 count. You pull the entrance back, and it plays the Wolfpack theme music, which I thought was amazing at the time. Still is amazing because it still works. I was very excited when I found out it still worked.
Okay, so let's go fast forward to the beginning of TCW. I assume you opened the newspaper one day and you saw there was an ad for training school.
It wasn't actually me, because Funnily enough, don't tend to read the paper. Reading's not something I'm big on, as people that know me would probably realise. But my partner, wife now, saw the ad in the paper and was pretty much like, you're going to go and do this because you need to get out of the house and do something else because you're going stir crazy. Wasn't keen, didn't want to go. It was also a Sunday morning at like 9 a.m, which didn't suit the lifestyle at the time. But I was like, it's 10 metres down the road from where I live. We'll go check this out. It's going to be terrible. It's not going to, last or go anywhere. Yeah. But sure, I'll go. I'll get in the good books, do what I'm told. And that was August 2012.
So nearly 10 years ago.
Nearly 10 years.
And you're still here, so good things, obviously.
Yeah, that's...
Or is your wife still telling you to get out of the house?
No, now it's the opposite. Now I'm too invested, I think. But cleaning up our spare room the other week, I did find a folder that had a couple of the receipts from my first couple of training sessions. It had my schedule, where I was up to, had some comments from Lee, the trainer at the time, which is hilarious to read now.
How many people were at training that first day?
4.
Yeah. So what did you do that day?
We spent about 3 hours setting the ring up in Wimoo Hill Hall. And then once that was up, I think we trained for another 2.5, 3 hours. And then we packed the ring back down and loaded it back into his truck. So overall, it was nearly a full 8-hour day, I think, that week. Then the next week came back, stupidly, I thought, no, this is fine, I'll come back. And then the next week, we didn't do the ring, and we just had the mats on the floor and did everything that we did in the ring the week before. So that was an experience and a half.
And was that sort of the common training session then? Like sometimes you'd do the ring, sometimes
every
not?
2 weeks or 3 weeks we'd get the ring.
Yeah. And it still remained 4 or so people were training? Or
Yep.
How long until more people turned up?
Stayed a level of 4. I don't think we reached double figures until year 3, probably.
Yeah.
Because there was a lot of in and out. And as you can imagine, if you get people that turn up for their first time, here to learn how to wrestle, they rock up, there's 4 very unfit looking people, no ring, throwing themselves back and front first onto a basketball type floor on a little gym mat. Not many people are going to stick around.
I guess the ones that do stick around, you know that they really want to be there.
That's it. And of that core 4, we all stayed till at least past the first or second show. Then there was a few injuries and life happened for some people and they had to drift off.
Yeah. So you've been at training for, 12 months probably before the first show? What was that time frame like? Was it about a year and a half before the first show?
Yeah,
did you think you were going to get to that first show?
No. Honestly, when I first spoke to Lee and we had our conversations, it turns out we have had a very similar concept of wrestling, taste in wrestling. And we'd sit and we always had that. It's like, one day I'm going to run a show at Albert Hall. And I was like, yeah, sure. Never. This place is never running a show. It's Launceston. Launceston can't sustain a wrestling company. This guy's dreaming. Never happened. And then I can't actually remember when he first told us that there was a show. I can't remember that moment, but I just remember being like, nah, it still won't happen. No, it's got the date, his hair. It's like, nah, I don't believe ya.
So how many people from the original, I guess how many TCW originals were on that first show then? Because it was heavily mainlanders.
There were 4 of us counting Lee. 3 people were born in Tassie. And
so who were the other ones? Was it
So we
Kilrog?
had... No, Kilrog didn't make it until show 2. He was second to none.
Yeah.
So Annihilation, we had OG Mercury and Wild Thing.
Oh, yes. I watched
so they were in a 4-way against some of the Queensland's boys whose names I do not remember.
Yeah. So you're winning at the very first Annihilation. You're going to be the TCW champion. How did that feel knowing you're getting put in that position? I guess you said it was a process of elimination.
Yeah, process of elimination.
And Diablo didn't want to put himself over?
Yeah, it's probably the only time that's ever happened, if you look at the next 3 years' worth of content. But it was really nice that someone had the faith in me, because I definitely didn't have the faith in me. I tried to talk him out of it every day for like 3 months or however. I don't think it was that long. I think would have only been, maybe 2 months. I think he was like, we're doing this and it's going to be you. And I'm like, why me? It's like, I'm not good. I'm terrible.
Did you think you were even ready for a match?
No. I don't know if anyone ever thinks they're actually ready for their first match. But thank God it was against him, because I was terrified that day.
When I rewatched it recently, it's like there's a lot more in that match than you'd expect for somebody's first match. Like there's so many near falls. Were you like, why has it got to be so much?
Look, I didn't know any different. Like, yeah, it's looking back at it now, I was like, Christ, if this was my first match, I should have gotten a lot better than I have by this point. That was definitely Diablo doing all of the work in that match, but I guess I did my bit. It still makes me cringe to watch parts of it, be it the physique or the shorts that everyone loves to bring up to me still, which I do still have at home, so they might come out again one day. Like, I think it's a good match. I think it holds up okay, but yeah, I struggle to watch it because it's just reminding myself of how terrified I was that day, all the things that went into the lead up, and obviously when you have that show was stacked with talent, like some of the best talent in Australian wrestling at the time, and they are all coming down here to do their thing, and they're like, who is this dickhead, and why is he why is this strange scrawny little boy wearing shorts winning a title on a show that we're all on?
Were you familiar with any Australian wrestling outside of TCW? I probably didn't even know there was wrestling in Australia at the time, apart from AWF or whatever it was. It's like the one thing that would...
The classic AWF. I think that's
Facebook
most of our
Facebook was probably around at that point, wasn't it?
Yeah, I knew small bits of Australian wrestling from Diablo, I don't know, Lee? I don't know what the technical term is, from like his experience in Queensland, watching some of that footage, and the Facebook and everything was around, so you're aware of there is wrestling out there, but I'd never been to a local show before. I'd never seen anything. And then once he started saying, oh, these people are coming, you obviously get on the Google and you type and it's like, oh, it's this? Okay, cool. Yep, they do this and this. I'm like, okay.
Did you talk to anybody else during the day much? Just to
sort
of pick their brains at all? Or you too scared to talk to anyone?
I was definitely too scared to talk to most of them, but a lot of them didn't care and would go out of their way to come to me and offer advice. We went out for tea on the Friday night. I think they were staying at the Hotel Tasmanian or Saloon. So we went there for tea, and then Lee ditched. He was like, oh, you'll be right, you can take them around. And then I think we went to the pub and we went to the Mersh. And it was they had to tick off all of the known attractions at the time. We had to go see the monkeys. Yeah. We had to go to the Mersh to check out I think a few of them got to the Gorge, but yeah, it was very much on eggshells. Believe my biggest memory from that night, at some point, there was someone had back in the day, you used to get those massive spray things of vinegar.
Vinegar?
Yeah, that people would put on their chips and stuff, the sauce dispensers.
Yeah.
Having one of them and accidentally spraying it all over Tommy Hellfire and his shirt, and that was possibly the most terrifying experience of my life to that point. Luckily, we came through the other side of that.
Yeah, and he obviously didn't hold it over you. You
it was definitely held over me for the weekend. It came up a few times, but yeah, we got there in the end. It was very, very fun experience, that first year of shows with all these people that came down and all of the knowledge that they were willing to give to some small kid in Tassie.
So the first shows happened. Was there any expectation that TCW wasn't just going to fizzle out, or like there was did it really depend on audience coming, being a crowd?
It always comes down to the audience, but that first show had such a big crowd, and they actually were super into it, and
I was there.
you kind of you do get sucked into it a bit, and you're like, oh, I hope there's another one. But I had no involvement at all with the business side of things then. It was 100% Lee doing everything on his own, so I can't vouch as to how close and how many times we were to not getting that next show. I think there was a couple of months gap, but I feel the second show had to have been semi-locked in not long after the first one or at the first one.
Yeah.
Because I believe pretty sure we set up the main event for the second show at the first one. So
yeah, the main event was a number one contender.
Yeah, so there had to be some form of concept that there was going to be a second show.
So the second show was the only one that was up at Riverside at the tail race. Then, is any reason that we didn't just stay at the same place? Or was it booked out?
Elephant was booked.
Yeah, and
I think the Elephant was booked. Wasn't involved in the business side of things then, so I'm not sure if it was the chance of trying somewhere else or if it was the venue we had was booked. So we tried the tail race, and we were there once, and it was a good show. It was a fun show, and we haven't been back. There was an issue with the floor.
Yeah. Okay, so how did the takeover of TCW happen? You and Dylan Daniels are now the co-owners. So Diablo just wanted to pack up and leave, or?
He'd done a lot, because by this stage we're at 2016? 2018.
Was it after Annihilation 6? Was it the second
album? It was
album?
about A6, yeah. So, what are we, 12, 13, 14, 15? So he'd had it for about 6 years, and he was burning the candle at both ends, and I think had just done everything that he could do on his own.
Yeah.
And bless him, he did so much for so many people. I still don't think he's fully aware of just how much he's done for quite a few of the boys down here. And he came to us one day and he was done. And it was the option of do you guys want to buy it? Because if you don't, there's no more wrestling.
Yeah. And it was always going to be you two, or did he know that, not you by yourself? Or?
I don't think... he joked to me for years about buying it, and I'm like, I'm not buying a wrestling company, dude. I don't have... I don't know how to do business. I work in a supermarket, and I, bludged my way through year 12. I'm not a mind for this.
So to get Daniels on board, were you well, I'll do the wrestling side of you do the other side?
Once again, it actually it comes down to the wives and the women in our lives, I think, because we both went home after that meeting and we were both pretty miserable. I think the main day we went to Macca's and had a meeting with Lee because it's down the road from training. So we trained all morning and then went and had this conversation, which was quite saddening to us. And then it was Carmen's birthday and she was having a lunch at a vineyard somewhere. It was a joint birthday with someone from work. And so us being the people that we are, were just sort of very down. I spent most of the afternoon in the corner trying to figure out the logistics of buying a wrestling company, and we were like, nah, I can't do it. And then this back and forth for a couple of weeks until finally Tegan and Carmen, both of our guys, were like, guys, just going together, it'll be fine. Do it. I'm like, oh, well, if they think we can, I guess we can do it then.
Yeah.
A clear path. And so then the process went through, and I think it was a couple of months. I think there was one awkward show in between that was sort of Lee booked, but we ran.
Yeah.
And that was the first show that we ever ran, which was terrifying, flying by the seat of our pants.
Yeah.
But we got there.
What would be the biggest lessons that you learned from the Lee era then? Maybe things to do and maybe some things not to do without burying him.
Jesus. That's a long
list. Was he just I'm out of here, boys?
Yeah. Nah, look. by the point of the chapter changing, it was very much I'm out and gone. But the years previous of that, of just watching like how he builds his version of how building a show, how he dealt with talent, what he would do for talent, and the hard work put into like the advertising and trying to get the paper and the radio and all these you take everything from it.
So he was doing all that by himself? Did you have
100%. Did it all on his own.
So currently, Horsey does the advertising, does he? Dylan Daniel, like the printing of the posters. You've got Cyrus handles editing and video.
We've got a few different people now. So we've palmed our social media off to someone that actually knows how to run social media, which has been a massive improvement because that's something TCW has always struggled with forever, because none of us are super tech savvy and can understand the algorithms and how that stuff works. We just be like, we're doing a show, here's a poster, and they just keep sharing the same thing. But so we've got someone doing that. Yeah, Daniel he's the businessman. He's much more of a people person. He can deal with he deals with a lot of that, and then I get the wrestling side of it.
Well, you got the more fun part, I guess.
Yes and no. So sometimes we trade and I do a bit of the business and he does a bit of the wrestling, but just to keep us on our toes so we know what the other person's
actually has to
dealing with.
So when you had that meeting with him, when you decided to do it, was there a point where it's like you actually got excited over it? It's like, this is really, let's do it. We can do this and we can do that.
Once we came to the realisation that, one, we can do it, two, we have the money to afford to do it, and we sat down and we're like, right, how can we take what he's already built and make it more? Because we feel like that A5 show at Albert Hall was huge. Like, that was definitely a pinnacle of a lot of years of work and a lot of blood, sweat and tears. And I feel that was sort of a peak that we'd reached. And then the next show we were just back at Elf and it was back into the grind. We're like, this isn't going to sustain if we just keep doing this, so we need to start.
Is that about we
need to reach that level that we had for A5 for every show.
So did you have like the lighting setup that you do now at that time, or was that something?
So we got the lights, I think 3 shows in, maybe 2 shows into our run, which Cyrus has been a big help with.
Yeah, because he's the computer guy.
He's the tech guy. So we know what we want to do, and then
he makes it happen.
We have we have Cyrus and we have Papa Burns that sort of cool. You can't do that, but this is how you can do something similar. Like, that works. Let's do this.
I think without both of those guys, a show day is going to be a lot harder.
Oh yeah, they've tried to leave a few times, but we've just refused. Like, it's just, we're not allowed. We don't. They came in the contract and. It was a never-ending deal. So
speaking of you running the wrestling side a bit more, so setting up storylines, so do you generally plan Annihilation toward Annihilation? So it's February through February. Is that what you...
That's the dream.
Yeah.
It doesn't always work that way because obviously not all of your ideas are good and not everything works. And then people can get hurt, people want to leave... You can come up with something better. Like, you might just fall yourself into a story like, oh, this is great, let's run with this. So, you never want to box yourself in as this is what we're doing and you don't veer or change. If something happens, you just roll with it, I feel.
So you've got a character you want to do something with, you're looking like how many shows ahead, and so, well, we need to get them to this point. And then you factor in who else you have here to work with them, or
I think it varies. I think it varies character to character and story to story. Like, there are some guys that have just worked themselves into a position and then a story can start to happen naturally. And you're like, well, this has happened here. A progression will be this and then that. And then other times it's just a case of like, well, if you're going to be a champion, you're going to hold it till this point. What's the what are you going to do? You can't just wrestle people.
Yeah.
So you try and get them an end game, and then you try and build yourself to that big match as best you can.
Yeah. So when it comes to the day of a show, it's like, get there, 8 o'clock in the morning. Like, do you have trouble sleeping the night before? Like, not just performing-wise, but, like, having to run a show. And
not as much as it used to. Like, I used to never sleep, never eat, never drink show day. It was just too nervous, too worried. The good thing about, like, being so concerned about running the show and making sure everything else is okay kind of makes you stress less about if you're having a match or if you've got anything upcoming, because you're more concerned about, alright, have we got the seats out? Is the ring up? Is the entrance right? Is the audio right? Are the lights right? You've got so much other stuff to worry about, and then worrying about, like, is everyone else good? Oh, yeah, that's right, I have a match too. What the hell am I doing? Like, it kind of puts in perspective different aspects of it.
That means everyone's probably going out of their way not to annoy you on show day, unless they need you. It's like, where's Dylan Daniels? I've got to go talk to him instead. Yeah, I think I'm an approachable person, but I've been told that I'm not by quite a few people. I think it's just a look on my face, maybe. So what was New Dawn like for you? That's October 2020. We've come back from COVID. There hadn't been a show since February, the Annihilation 7, and this is the first all TCW show. Like, there's no visitors.
That was a very good moment to be going into a show and it's all Tassie talent. It was also nice to just be doing anything again after COVID wrecked us for a year. It was a weird place to be, because with all the COVID restrictions that were in place and all of the means that are now you have to go through, we'd actually sold out 3 weeks before the show. And so it wasn't really a concern about, how's the show going to go? Because as opposed to the past, we'd always just sort of run with door sales. So you can get to like 4 o'clock on the day of the show and you're like, this is it. It's only going to be 10 people. This is the last one. No one's coming. Where when you pre-sell your tickets, you're like, well, we're already at capacity with our pre-sales. It kind of takes the edge off, is this show going to be a success or not? So that's probably the only good thing that for me that's come out of COVID is people are much more on the ball about pre-purchasing stuff and are all about, getting their names in early so you don't have to go through that big process that we used to do when COVID first coming out of COVID.
I didn't realise that the tickets thing was such a big deal with the pre-buying before then.
Oh yeah, because
since then rather.
For the first, outside of like the Annihilation shows, for the first 6 years, we just ran you buy tickets through Facebook or Fit Freak. We'd sell 30,
I guess 40, if people
and
think
then
that
it's just, let's see what happens. Some shows you get 350, and then
randomly.
And then other times we've got a very loyal crowd here though, so
there's a lot of familiar faces.
Of familiar faces, so getting the crowd's never too much of a concern, but there are definitely days when you've got that middle of winter show, hasn't reached double figures, it's raining, it's windy. For whatever reason, you feel like your promotion you've done's not quite there. Like, this is it, this is the one, we're going to get 60 people, we're done. And then, come bell time, you look out, it's like, oh no, everyone turned up. Whew, that's good.
So last year, we had 3 months in a row of shows. Did you worry that the crowd was going to get burnt out? They were not going to turn up for some of them?
Yeah, definitely. And that would have been completely on me because I booked the shows. So, there was a reason that we booked 3 back-to-back, and I can't remember what the reason was now, but at the time, I think
probably had to get to.
I think there was
more contender matches for Alex and.
I wasn't even.
Liam.
That was an external reason. It was. I can't remember if it was like a long weekend or a footy date. We're waiting for a football roster to be confirmed or something.
Oh, the grand final.
So we booked. Maybe? We penciled in an extra date so if one fell through because we were clashing with something, we could just instantly move to the other one. Turns out we didn't have to, and so we just decided to keep all three and just see what happens. Like, we felt we were in a pretty good spot with running with just all local talent. The stories were going pretty well. The shows were ticking over. Like, people were keen, so we're like, if we're going to try it, now's the time to try it.
And there was probably only like one or two visitors on each one, maybe? I feel like there was an Andy Rhodes and a
I feel
Bojack.
Two of them were nearly all Tassie shows, just because it was so hard. Like, I think one of them was meant to have quite a few, but Victoria locked down week of. So that was
a couple of the girls. Again.
Yeah,
so that was Skylar Cruz, Katie Lux.
So that was another fun dealing with week of. Let's remake this show, but overall, I think it went pretty well. It's probably not something we would do regularly, but it is good to know that if we have a reason and a cause for it, we can do it and it will be successful.
Well, speaking for myself, I felt like we were all like in a really good swing of things. It's like, all right, 3 weeks down, okay, this is like show week, then get there, set up, do the ring, set up and pack down, and it is back to it again.
It is very much that wrestling mind. Like, there's no chance to soak in or really take in too much of what you've just done, because it's instantly like, all right, cool, next. We've got 3 weeks to go again. Yeah,
like everyone felt like they probably really switched on and just into it without having 2 months to cool down or anything between. So what are some of the matches that you're most proud of then? You've had a lot of matches. I didn't check the cage match statistics.
Oh, I thought you just meant TCW matches. My matches.
What are your matches
yeah. It's hard to put them in order because so many of them will have different meaning. Like, the first show in that first match, like, that was a big deal. Had a lot of the Renter crowd in for that one, so a lot of friends came, family came, so that was always a nice moment because none of them knew that I was winning or anything, so that was a great moment. The street fight at Breakage against Cremator was a very fun memory of being terrified that I was going to die, but at the same time, like, this is fun, going through the crowd, getting hit with stuff. He's a big dude.
When I was talking on the podcast the other day, I was like, well, I've got like my favourite match, my best match, and like the match I'm most proud of, and they're all different for different reasons.
The one of the worst bumps I've ever taken was in that street fight with Cremator. He went to back body drop me over the rail into the crowd and then put my arm out instead of landing flat, and everyone came back because they thought I'd snap my arm in half. Like, what are you talking about? I had no idea till I watched the footage, and then I was terrified that I'd just broken my arm. The Annihilation 5 ladder match with Diablo, because again, it was like the culmination of the first 5 years. We'd always said, it's like, one day we'll do Albert Hall. I was like, we'll never do Albert Hall.
Did you take a ladder bump through a table on that one? Or was that...
He did.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
You're smart then.
Yeah. I did the thumbtacks that show.
Yeah.
So that was a fun match. Like, that was a big crowd. Like, I born in Launceston, grew up in Launceston, so Albert Hall was always, like the biggest venue in the city. Yeah. So to rock up and see TCW on the little board out the front, and the show's sold and the poster's just a photo of my ugly face. Like, that's a real nice... Yeah, it's sort of like, wow, come a long way, we've done so much.
If you talk to anybody in Launceston about wrestling that's like over the age of 50, I saw wrestling at the Albert Hall, and there was a lady hit some haystacks with a handbag and all that sort of stuff. Yeah. I did something really stupid actually when I was in college, because we'd heard about this, and for some reason it's like, oh, let's go around on our lunch break or whatever. We were in town and we went to the Albert Hall and it's like, so do you guys like have the wrestling ring here? Is it like in storage or something? Like, I didn't know any better. Yeah, and they just looked at us.
What you do when you're a kid. Like, you don't think these things through.
I was 16 years old thinking that there's just a wrestling ring just packed, set up at the Albert Hall somewhere. I don't know, it could be in the basement.
So you've got all that stuff, and then there's like that second, like the TCW second era, I guess, where getting to go out and just destroy Dylan Daniels was a fun time. Like, he just had his kids. He was not in any way, shape, or form ready for that match, and just beat the absolute crap out of him for like 45 minutes. That was fun. Match with Cyrus the year up, like, I've been super lucky with my Annihilation matches, which I guess will sound super egotistical because, as you've just discussed, I'm the one that's apparently booking the shows, and it just sounds like I'm doing this to myself.
Except for me botching the bloody end of the match.
That was his fault. I'll stand by that. He's like, don't tell anyone. I'm like, all right, that's on you. But also, yeah, just count to 3.
Oh, that's one of my favourite matches that I've seen in TCW, you and Cyrus. And it's like, nah, I want to wrestle him on a show. He's retired now.
He'll be back one day,
well,
won't he, Cyrus?
Could be a bueno one day. You never know. Getting to the last few here. So the first bunch of trainees have come through and are now wrestling on shows that you've trained. That's all from, like, you know, the Eddie Jones and Dylan Daniels era of wrestlers. So how does that feel, knowing that these people haven't been trained by anybody else apart from yourselves or people that you've trained?
Yeah, sorry. Sucks for you.
I'm one of them.
Nah, like, I love it. I'm at the point now where I get more enjoyment from doing stuff and watching you guys go out there and do dumb shit than
like,
me. I was like, look at him go. And like, yeah, getting everyone from day one to then seeing the expression on their face when they come back from that first match and they're just living out all those dreads, like, yeah, it's great. Especially when you can get the ones that are like super shy and you have to like push in the door to then get them to the stage that they can do it, which is exactly how I was, like, but it is, yeah, you can't not be proud of everything that everyone's doing here, and I love the fact that everyone still works together. It's still a very much next man up mentality. We don't really have that many issues with egos and stuff down here, where everyone has that mentality of, hey, if this person gets better, we're all going to get better. Yeah, which is fantastic.
There's when somebody has their first session at training, do you see someone's like, they're going to be here, they're going to stick around, you just sort of get a good feeling about people? And I suppose you'd have the opposite as well. Like, they shouldn't be, maybe.
Some people have proved me wrong. Quite a few have, but yeah, you can definitely tell from some people of just those annoying people, and you just come in and just start explaining it and they just get it.
I remember the open day where Dino was there, and it's like, this guy's just instantly, like, he's so great. And then he disappeared for like 2 months. Yeah,
that's the hard thing. Like, there's been so many people that come in, they do their open day, they do that first day, it's like, oh, this person would be great, and then you just never see them again, or they just can't handle the pain from getting thrown around. Because it is, like, takes a special kind of stupid person to want to do this. Like, we all love it, but...
It only hurts if you're doing it wrong, though. You've got to stop doing it wrong.
There's that wear and tear that accrues.
Yeah. So just the other day, you haven't run the ropes for like a week and a half, and then you run the ropes, and then it's you're back.
Need to rebuild them calluses if you have any time off.
So what piece of advice would you go back and give yourself 10 years ago? Is there like just...
Knee pads.
Knee pads?
Yeah, didn't get knee pads till near the first show.
Yeah.
Biggest regret I ever had.
You weren't training in ring half the time, so you should have picked up an headlock quicker. Yeah.
And the trend has continued. It's the first thing you say. And if you're going to do this, go buy good knee pads. Oh, yeah. No one ever does. And then they finally get their new knee pads and get good knee pads. Like, I get it now.
I think I went and bought my stuff after the very first train because I didn't know what it was going to be like. So, like, am I like... Is everybody going to hate me? Am I just going to not like this?
I went quite a few years with just the crappy, like, Sports Authority...
The volleyball
knee pads. And You're like, yeah, I've got knee pads. No, they don't do anything. They might stop you getting scratches and bleeding.
My volleyball ones are quite nice, and I use them on shows.
Mine were like $10. Mine were not nice. Just look after yourself better.
Yeah,
that would have been my main advice. Did not put in the time I should have when I had the chance.
Yeah. Well, I've got 2 more questions here. Why don't you seek out wrestling elsewhere? Like, I say that, you just wrestled in GPW.
Well, look, I had an opportunity not long after the first 2 shows, but I was very lacking in confidence, very shy, and was just like, I can't. I could barely get out of the door to do wrestling down here, let alone to fly to the mate. Like, I'm not good enough. I'm too small. Like, all the things. And I just psyched myself out, talked myself out of it. And then I just got to a point where I was like, I'm past it.
Yeah.
Like,
become an owner and say,
it's
I can't be doing this.
You hear all the horror stories, which I'm sure half of it's bullshit, but I guess it's I got too comfortable, didn't chase it out.
Yeah.
Could have. Do I regret it? Sometimes. What could I have done if I'd have pursued this? Or it's similar to your other question, like, if you'd have put in more back then, what would have done? But if I'd have gone to the mainland and wrestled more and done all that, probably wouldn't be sitting here now as running this and part owner, and I definitely wouldn't want to change that. So
when I think about myself for interstate stuff, I was like, once I've had like 25 matches, I might think that I'm good enough. It's like
that's exactly what I said. I was just like, I wish. It's like, there's this if you would like to come. It's like, nah, I'm gonna wait till I get better and I've had more matches. If the opportunity comes, take it.
Yeah, because
it may not come again. So, in worst case, you suck, but at least you tried.
Yeah. I
didn't try. And I live with that, so.
You've got your trips now. That was a very different position. You know, you got Andy Rhodes that you've worked with numerous times, so, but.
Yeah, look, we've made some friends along the way that he's another creative guy. He's got his own ideas of stuff he wants to do, and we're just very lucky that he reached out and asked. I was like, yeah, sure. I guess I'm just in a position now where it's not as stressful as it was on the young boy that was around at the time. I have a bit better mindset of what wrestling is and can be and what I can do.
Speaking of what things can be or can do, it's like, last question, where's TCW in another 10 years? Hopefully still around?
I'd like to think so. I still think we're growing. I still think there's room for us to grow and get better. Like, we've still never done that Hobart show, thanks COVID. We are... So there's still a lot of things on the list that we'd like to tick off. We're still getting new people in to train. We've probably got the strongest group in now that we've ever had, so I don't see there's any reason for us to not be around in 10 years. I'd like to still be a part of it in 10 years, but we'll see where that goes.
Yeah. Hopefully running more frequent even, or... Like, what was the Devonport? What was there, 1 or 2 Devonport shows?
There was 2.
How did those come about?
Again, they were before I was super involved on the other side. The first one, I think, was just a case of... Well, he spent a lot of time down south with work. Well, not down south, but down northwest with work, and I think it just sort of fell into place. It's only 45-minute drive, so you're down and back. You don't have to worry about overnighting it or anything. First show went really well. Second show not as well, which was our fault because...
Didn't advertise or something?
Yeah, we...
Didn't promote it?
We ran a show a month after getting back from spending 5 weeks in America for WrestleMania.
Yeah.
Wasn't the best idea.
Is the main reason that show TCW runs every 2 months, is it just to not burn out the local audience?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. Tassie's can be a fickle crowd sometimes, and they will get to the point it's like, I don't need to go to that now. I'll go to the next time.
Yeah,
I'll go. And once you've yeah, you want to try and keep it special.
I think that's might have been what I was even doing when, sort of in the, like 3 to 6 years ago. It's like, oh, there's one on. Oh, I might go to this one. Oh, but I probably didn't realise at the time it was every 2 months.
The hardest thing for us to do is to get people in the door. Once we get them in the door, generally they'll be hooked.
Yeah.
Well, they're like, oh my God, I did not expect this to be what it was, and they'll come back. The hardest thing is to just try and convince them to get them in the door the first time.
They just think it's going to be so off-putting. They don't realise that they can be involved to a certain extent and have fun. Like there's a whole group of people coming from work that haven't been to it before, and they're like, oh, let's all go see Ben do wrestling. Yeah. When is it? It's like next month. It's like, all right, you're coming? Yeah, you coming?
Yeah.
So
I've said it a bunch of times in the paper. I've said it on the radio, and it's not. I guess it's somewhat arrogant. I honestly think we are the best entertainment in Launceston for the price you will pay.
The prices haven't gone up in 9 years. $15 still.
Now, they've gone up once. We put them up not long after we took over. But we're a family company. We're aimed, we want to give something for families to do. And there is nothing in Launceston a family can do for under, $200. So, we don't want to ruin that. And it's proof and point, the amount of people that come up to you and, this is what the kids do with dad or mum or the every time everyone gets excited because that's the thing that they do, and to be that for people is great.
And you got the kids after the show getting everyone to sign the posters, and
kids
they just
love it.
Yeah, they're absolutely nuts for it.
I don't know if they understand everything that's happening, but they love it.
Yeah. Well, that's all my questions. Is there anything else you want to address at all before we wrap it up?
Not that I can think of.
Watch the back foot on the lockups. Yeah. All right, well, thanks.
Don't be shit.
That's
a favourite.
Thanks for joining the show. And
anytime. We'll do it again. We'll get in more in depth next time.
Yeah. Oh, I thought these questions were pretty in depth, don't you?
Well, it's not bad. We've got nearly an hour.
These are not your typical questions that you get on. What's your favourite wrestler? That sort of stuff.
Yeah, no.
Who's your favourite wrestler?
Look, you've done well. You've impressed me. It's better than I was expecting.
Yeah. Oh, great. All right.
Backhanded compliment.
All right. See you later. Bye.